Across the Park podcast is proud to be sponsored by Globe Gas and Heating. For the best kitchen and bathroom renovations, boiler servicing and repair, and central and underfloor heating in the Northwest, head over to globecentralheating.com and quote Across the Park for a free quote. And just like that, we are back. Welcome to episode 1 of 24-25 season Across the Park podcast. My name is, of course, Ian Mills, and thank you so much for rejoining us for another season. It didn't start well, did it? It just didn't start well. We went into Goodison Park flying. We went into Goodison Park emotional. The sun was shining, and we had the most Everton day ever. But I'm here to cover it with somebody who I have, borderline harassed to come onto this show for a number of months, and I'm delighted that she's here to join me to discuss the fallout and to look ahead to the season as well. It is my friend, Giulia Bould. Julia, thanks for coming on. How are you?
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think you were that bad. It's just we couldn't make it work, could we? But we've managed to squeeze it in. So no, thank you for having me. It's warm in here, I'll be honest, but it's not as bad as the press conference room at Finch Farm. It's not that warm.
Well, we get paid on Thursday, so we'll buy some fans. Next time you come in, we will get it. But yeah, it is warm. But it was warm on Saturday. The game it was a lovely day. And we went into Goodison, like I said. We were ready for the final season. We were boisterous. Yeah. The ones who paid the extra £5, like me, for the season card, had a nice little wallet and a pin. And then we got
the Gladys Street looked incredible.
Oh my God, the 1878s pulled that off.
Yeah, big shout out to them, because I know they were busy working on that a lot of hours had gone into it prior to that. They were there Friday sorting all the flags out, and Saturday morning, and really getting it. And it looked great. And I have to say, I was working in the fan zone, and then I managed to get to my seat just as the siren was starting. I was running up the stairs. And when the siren went off and Z-Car started, the noise from inside the ground, and I did have a moment where I thought, I'm going to cry, because I thought, you start chalking them off now, like how many, and it was just incredible atmosphere. And the first 20 minutes, I thought, oh, this is all right here. I have to say, after 15, I was worrying, thinking one of these chances has got to go in.
Yeah, that's fair,
So that did start worrying me, and you start getting that deja vu feeling, don't you, again? But yeah, as conditions go, it was perfect. Up to, a goal being ruled out, and then Brighton scoring, and VAR, things not working.
It just became, from out of nowhere almost, a difficult afternoon, didn't it? It was like we were okay, and then we had the goal that was offside. I thought Harrison, despite some of his final end products, was a live wire, and he was causing Brighton problems. And I was thinking, I've got to score. And then you go in at half-time, 1-0. And I thought, again, we came out for the first 5 or 6 minutes. We were okay again. The penalty shout, 10 men. It became a difficult watch, didn't it?
I think everyone sort of knew the writing was on the wall at that point as soon as Ashley Young got the red card. But there was also Tim Irabunam as well. I thought, oh, my goodness, just watching him. It was a joy to watch some of the passes he was put in, some of the tackles, the way he fights for the ball all the time. I loved watching him as well. And that was probably, one of the few bright points of the game in the end when you look at it with hindsight. I just think maybe it feels a bit flatter because it was the first game of the season, because we knew it was the first of the last season as well, and I also think there's a little bit of PTSD from everything that's gone on in the last few seasons as well. And I think it's really easy for panic to set in. I think if that result would have happened maybe in September after 3 or 4 games with points on the board, I think it would have been, that was a bad day at the office. But there was still some positives to take from it. I think timing is everything in football, and that was really unfortunate the way it was. I do think it was an anomaly, hopefully, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, the right back situation. I'm unsure what the manager could have done, given the amount of injuries that he's got with Nathan Patterson, Seamus Coleman already out, and then the backup option of James Garner, also injured. I know there's a lot of shouts for Roman Dixon. Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because as you know, Goodison can be a bear pit for the right reasons, and it can also be the bear pit for the wrong reasons. I saw some comments online after Roma, and I think a few people, which I just completely disagree with, so I want to say that straight away, sort of questioning if Jake O'Brien was up to it, because there was a few sort of slips at the start, and this is the issue. And I also saw on social media, which is never a good barometer for anything, so I'll put that out there as well, sort of saying, you know, if he'd have played the kids and it was 3-0, everyone would have been fine because they'd have said it was a learning experience. I'm not buying that. I still don't think it would have been fine. I think some would have questioned if the kids were good enough.
Yeah.
So I just think it was just a really unfortunate situation all round, really.
Do you understand the reaction? I mean, my personal opinion is the lineup was wrong. I'd like to see O'Brien.
Yeah.
Dixon, I'm not so sure about. To have Ashley Young, and he's in the squad, he's always going to be the backup right back. And when you need a right back, if Young plays, I'm okay with it. And I think
he signed for that as well. I think he knew he was. I don't think he didn't expect to play as much as he did last season. He certainly, I don't think, expected to be starting this season.
No. It was the O'Brien one for me. I just think it, and I go back to the first game of last season, and we played Fulham at home, and he played Michael Keane and Neil Maupay. And at 2 o'clock, everyone was a little bit like, oh God, is that the right team news? And the crowd go into the game then. And in hindsight, you're always right. There's no person wrong in hindsight. Everyone's a genius in hindsight. So I'm not claiming to know it all, but I just think maybe the team was wrong. Do you understand people saying that?
I can see that. I think I was surprised when the team came out because Jake O'Brien had played in the friendlies, but then I know Michael Keane was also injured. So again, you know, Sean Dyche is dealing with a treatment room that's just like a revolving door at the moment, which has been the case all the way through his tenure. So I understand that as well. I think I was surprised to the point where I actually thought, has he got a knock? Has he picked up some kind of knock in training? Because I did expect, I kind of worked out Ashley Young by process of elimination and all there was. And I agree with you. I think throwing Roman Dixon in on that, because let's not forget Brighton are a good side. Yeah. Spent 100 million this summer, you know, 11th place last season, 6th the season before. And
Dixon would have been against Matoma.
Yeah, who is one of the best in his position in the league, and whether or not he stays at Brighton remains to be seen. Of course, one of the big guns, so to speak, comes in for him. Yeah, I mean, obviously he trusts Michael Keane, we know that, but as you say, we saw it last season and Jared Branthwaite came in and then Michael Keane didn't get a look in. I think, I don't know, as I'm saying this out loud, I'm just thinking, is Michael Keane sometimes an easy target? Because I thought Tarky was a little bit off his best as well on Saturday, whether or not that's playing with Michael Keane and it threw the balance because it's, you know, someone he doesn't play with week in, week out. Yeah. I'm not totally sure, but I think sometimes he's quite an easy target, Michael Keane. You know, sometimes some of the balls he was putting in, you know.
In the first half,
Yeah. So, I don't know.
It's hindsight, isn't it, again?
But again, if it had worked, if that goal hadn't have been offside, if a penalty had been given.
And it's 2-2 and you're fine.
And you could go and nick a winner with Goodison rocking. Yeah. I think, I mean, it's all very easy afterwards. And we're not privy to what is going on in training as well. We don't know every piece of detail. We haven't got all the, I sound like Sean Dyche, I was going to say stats and things, but we haven't got access to that. And that's, you know, you're not going to put that out anyway, because you shouldn't be putting that out. So, but I can see the frustration, but a lot of it's in hindsight, isn't it? If it had worked, no one would have moaned.
He's a genius.
And also, you know, we've seen Michael Keane get some screamers before. I think we want to get Spurs at the Gladys Street. If you put one of them in, everyone would have got a great idea starting Michael Keane. Or play him up front, as everyone keeps saying.
Loads have said that.
Just play him up front.
Those training videos of Finch Farm, he is putting in the top bin.
I know. Maybe put DCL at right back there. We could just start moving it round now for the
Koeman
weekend.
did that, didn't he? You sound like Ronald Koeman.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like Ronald Koeman. Oh my goodness. Move on.
We did get a lot of reaction on our social media, and I'm going to ask you some social media questions at the end.
Okay.
Some of the not so many questions we got on just feedback was, why did we bring Mason Holgate on? Is it the manager maybe didn't do himself any favours with that? I think McNeil and Harrison, when they went right back, they didn't cover themselves in glory because they're not right back. So I understand the logic in it. But that visibility of a player who does not want to be here and has openly said to come on when we're already in a bad mood.
And it was uncomfortable, the reaction as well. I mean, I'm a bit of a baby. I don't like things like that. I sort of sat there thinking, but I spoke to somebody on air this morning who called up and they were saying the same thing, and you know, why he needs to have gone from the club. The problem you've got here is who's coming in to buy him?
We've tried to get rid of him.
Yeah, he's been there so long. This isn't Kevin Thelwell that was saying, this is a player I think's great, let's bring him in. It's not work. This has been the situation with Mason Holgate for a while, and he went to Sheffield United, didn't he, last year? He didn't I think he got sent off in his first game.
Yep.
Didn't set the world alight there. So this is just now a problem. I haven't got any insider knowledge on this. I would imagine, though, this week there's a lot of phone calls going in all over the place and a lot of tough conversations going on about what can happen. I don't think... Again, I do not believe Sean Dyche rocked up at Goodison on Saturday thinking, I'm going to put Mason Holgate on at some point today. Just everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and he's ended up putting him on.
But it took 20 minutes as well. It wasn't like straight away when the right back was sent off.
Well, and I think that shows you where Mason Holgate stands, doesn't it? So, and I think maybe as well, but near the end, we were knackered. It was hot. We were playing with 10 for a long time. I just wondered if it was a case of he was trying to shore it up because he didn't. I know one went in and got ruled out. He didn't want it like 4, 5, 6, 7-0 because that just looks even worse. It's not good to pick the players up from that either. That's kind of my only opinion on it. And
it just felt like the wrong way to end the day. Like it was like
it just wasn't a good day in the end, wasn't it? I think hopes were high and it just wasn't a good day. But I don't know what would you have. The bench looked thin. I do think the bench was still thin.
Do you know what? I don't necessarily blame Sean Dyche for looking at that game and going, if this is 4 or 5, what does it do to us long term? So I'm going to have to stop it being 4 or 5 and bring in...
It was just park the bus.
Unfortunately, Mason Holgate had to come on. I just think the visibility of because that player has said in media interviews he doesn't want to be here. I thought that the relationship between fan and player is very good. And it was a little bit like having a bad day, then seeing your ex with a rich man. You don't want to see it. Like, get out my sight. I don't want to. Yeah, I'm low enough.
We don't want to go down that road.
No.
We're not going down my love life thing. That's a whole other thing. Look, as well, if you'd have had everybody fit, or even a few more out that trip, if James got even 2, say Seamus and James gone off, Mason Holgate wouldn't have even been on the bench.
Of course not. No.
So again, it's just an absolute freak of a situation again. Will we see Mason Holgate play at the weekend? I'd be surprised.
I think he's going to have to do everything but.
I think so, and he clearly doesn't feature in his plans at all. It feels a little bit, I don't think it's as bad, it feels like the Chelsea result last season towards the end of the 6-0. And I remember seeing a really good tweet that I disagreed with, but it said, I've seen better managers than Sean Dyche not get out of this type of tailspin.
Okay.
But he got out of it.
He did, yeah.
And he did that. And I liked the way he dealt with that week. He went in, he looked at himself. And a lot of people say he's stubborn. I don't think Sean Dyche is a stubborn man. I think he'll look at himself. He looked at his own team. He looked at his players. There were some really brutally honest conversations going on inside Finch Farm for days. And then it was, right, we're moving on. And then we all know what happened after that.
3 home wins in a week.
Clean sheets. And when he went into that, it was 5 wins on the spin at Goodison, 5 clean sheets. I'm putting it down to a bad day at the office, and it's happened now.
Yeah. I think it'd be good. I'd love to get back on at some point in the season and look back at this result in the bigger picture and say, well, since then, Everton won 4. And that was a bad day. Yeah. Or maybe it was the start of something. We hope not, touch wood. But I think you've got it right there. I think it was a bad day at the office.
Everything that went wrong could go wrong. It's still the age-old problem. That's not a new problem, that, creating chances but not putting them away. That's nothing necessarily new. And given there's no new strikers come in, I think maybe we were all a bit deluded thinking that could have been fixed.
I have a question for you a little bit later on our striker situation. But we'll
I can't play up front. Is that what you're going to ask me? No.
Are we there yet? Are we at that point?
We are definitely not at that point.
You have a working relationship with the manager because of a great show that you did, and you're part of the press who speak to him regularly. He said something after the game, which I looked at on Twitter and thought he couldn't have said that. And then I seen a video clip and I thought, well, should he have said that? And it's gone quite viral. And it was in relation to empty seats, and it was like, well, this happens here when things aren't playing well. Do you think that was a slip of the tongue? It was taken out of context? Because when you see it like that, it feels quite bad.
I saw it and I had a different perspective on it, genuinely. And since then I've kind of checked, and he certainly, I can assure you, did not mean it in that way at all. I took it, and I think the way it was meant was, you've got to remember, they're pumped full of adrenaline. And I always find it difficult as a journalist to do a post-match interview immediately as a manager has walked off, particularly after defeats. And the same with some players. Some players are just full of adrenaline, understandably. They're tired. It's hot, there will have been nobody more disappointed with that result than Sean Dyche. He's worked up to that, and none of his game plan, was put into practice, and he had to make substitutes that he hadn't planned for. I think he meant it more of a situation that, I think it was meant to be more of a compliment that Everton fans know what's good, no good football, and they know that wasn't the best showing we've ever put on. And I think it was just a case of, he was asked the question, he was feeling, if you'd have been asked that question and the camera shoved in your face, I think it's just more of an adrenaline reaction. And I certainly when I first saw it, I was quite surprised after when I saw it, all over social media, the reaction. I didn't take it as that. I took it as, he was like, they know good football, and if we're not performing, he'd said it in the week beforehand, he'd said it on the Thursday, we need to give them something to cheer, and that's how I saw it. We gave them nothing. That's how I saw it, and I kind of can see why they were frustrated. That's how I understood the comments. I know everyone can take them a different way, but I know since then as well, he certainly didn't mean it in the way some people have perceived it at all. I know he's very proud to be Everton's manager. He takes the job very seriously, and all he wants to do is bring the good times back, and he works exceptionally hard. So I've spent a lot of time with him when I was inside Finch Farm. I've never, on mic or off mic, never heard him be derogatory towards the fan base.
Well, that's why I wanted to ask you. It was great that it's just,
by coincidence,
you came in at the perfect time, because I know you've got the working relationship and you can maybe read between the lines a bit more. Someone like me who's sitting on the couch, spends £100 on a little kit that day, spends another £100 on keeping the little man happy, and I'm having a bad day, and I'm seeing that, and it can sort of escalate. And a lot of fans were like me. We got some comments on social just saying, do you think the manager should have said that? So it's great to get you on and sort of get a little bit insight. To
each their own. I always say that. Take it, if you've perceived it in a different way to how I have. But I do know as well, I have checked before coming in here. I do know it wasn't meant in that way at all. And I think you've also got to look at it from, the adrenaline is pumping. He's been asked a question. What's he supposed to say to that as well? I don't really understand what the answer would be to that question that would be appropriate in any way, keep everybody happy when everyone's going home fuming anyway. And also remember, we've seen a lot more of Sean Dyche than we probably would have done, because he's answered a lot of questions over the last, what's he been there, 18 months or so, on things that had nothing to do with him. So he probably just gets fed up with asking a lot of questions. The amount of times we've been asked about a takeover, and think he doesn't. I think he said on Thursday, didn't he? Quite often, I know about 3 seconds before everybody else knows what's going on. He's had a lot to deal with, and he'd had a really bad day at the office. So sometimes I think that's okay. Just leave him be for a minute.
No, that's more than fair. Look, leading up to this season, like I said, the season ticket comes and it's got a commemorative wallet with it. You get a pin and everything. Sky Sports do a great one. We were delighted to be at Goodison Park to do a show ourselves. You're not only an Evertonian, but you do some work at the club as well, and brilliant in the fan zone. What was it like for you leading up to the last ever first game of the season? Emotional? Or?
Yeah, and I was a bit thinking about that for Roma as well, cause sort of last friendly and things. But it did have a feel of, the emotions are high. And I said in the fan zone, has anyone shed a tear yet this morning? I'd shed a tear at home before I got there. And I don't really know why. It just felt like this is the beginning of, I think I put on social media, it's the final chapter starts now.
It's the last of everything, isn't it? Last of everything.
And we're going to get that. So last Christmas festive fixture, last Merseyside dub. We're going to get all these lasts. And quite a lot of people in the fan zone said, I've been a bit tearful this morning. I think now that we've done the first one, I think it'll be okay. It'll become sort of, get the players over the line, get everything done. And I think for me, once it hits 2025, when we're in January, that's when I'll think, crikey, we're in the second half of the season now. And how fast it goes from sort of February, March, April, those fixtures just whiz by. and all the stuff will start happening then, and more things will appear on the TV and on the radio and in the newspapers, and stories about things. And I'm dreading that last fan zone, because I think I'm just going to be on the big screen as a complete blubbering mess. So I'll apologise now.
It's the evening game. Well, apparently they want it to be an evening game. I think it's not confirmed, but I think the club are asking for it to be under the lights.
The club obviously asked for it not to be the final weekend, which I understand, because everybody kicks off at the same time. And if there's, a title fight or something going on, then it's not going to get... And while it would have been lovely to go out on the final day of the season, I get that. I think Goodison deserves, as one of the final iconic stadiums that we've got left, I think it deserves that. So, fingers crossed. Maybe the Monday night game or something might work.
Or a 5:30 on a Saturday or something. I just think, I've just heard from people in the club that ideally they would like under the lights. That's the last time.
I think there were, but then you've got that thing, oh no, now I'm going to start crying. So do you know, somebody interviewed me last week about it for something else that's going out, and I started crying like a complete idiot about it. But just imagine they get the floodlights going off.
Oh God.
That final time, that's it.
I said on the podcast that we'd done a Goodison last week, and I've got no power at the football club at all, but I've told the people who are maybe arranging things, please let Colin Harvey be the last person on that pitch to go down a tunnel with the 1985 team.
Yes.
I think that would be, and I mean, I'm friends with his daughter Mel. She's been on a podcast.
Lovely. Yeah, I know Mel.
Absolute legend. So I've asked the question, and I just think that would be, if we can have the legends on the pitch and Zed Cars and Colin goes down.
Yeah, because we've lost so many legends as well. So it would feel,
I'm getting emotional now.
I know. We're going to set ourselves off, but it would be a really moving moment. And I think as well, you could probably lump into that sort of Seamus Coleman as well. I feel has to have sort of, because it could potentially be his last game. You would imagine it probably will be. And he's decided to see it out at Goodison. So, I think for him to maybe be, because he's becoming part of that legend status
100%.
Once he finishes, even though he will kick off, because me and him have had this row, as everybody heard on the podcast series.
Yes.
He won't have it, then he's a legend.
He is.
But there's still time for him to. I'd love the League Cup to be in Seamus Coleman's hands for lots of different reasons.
A lap of honour at the end is him.
And then I could say, I told you.
Can you imagine that visual at the end of the season where he just, out of here, there's your cup.
There's your cup. I've done it, because he said,
and then you welcome the legends on. And
there you go. Oh, we've done it. Like, everybody manifest that happening now, and we've sorted it out.
No, look, I'll go the opposite way now. So
no, it won't. We're all thinking positive.
How special is Goodison to you, anyway? Because you work there and you 10 games there. Is it a special place?
I'm very, very lucky, and I get to go in lots of little places and stuff like that. And I've obviously the series was in there, and the bucket story has become a massive part of now what everybody seems to ask me about, which is ridiculous.
Which you reenacted on social media a while back. I seen the picture.
I went to see it. Maybe I should reenact it. And put, me. Yeah, I mean, the club have said you can come in and see her anytime, so I did pop in and totally.
You've got to take that bucket, by the way, at the last game. You've got to.
If they would let me take, everyone keeps saying, what would you take from Goodison? I'd love to take one of the small, not the massive fan zones. I live in a small house. I've got literally nowhere to put the giant fan zones. But there's some smaller ones. I'd like to take a smaller fan zone sign, and I'd love to take, I'll give the bucket a home. The Goodison bucket, and I'll probably just take her places with me and things that should have a nice life beyond Goodison. This is ridiculous. Honestly, this bucket, honest to God, has just become a thing of its own. This is why somebody spoke to me last week, because they wanted to add the bucket story into some tales at Goodison. I can't believe it.
It's brilliant. If anyone from the football club is watching, and I know you watch, let Giulia keep the bucket, please. It's a story in itself. How much on the fan zone? It's Graham Stewart giving you the bucket. Let's make it happen.
Goodness me, this is ridiculous. Oh dear me. Yeah. I forgot what you even asked me. What does Goodison mean to me? We've digressed. But do you know what? I've been asked this before. It means people to me. I think of lots of different people. I've got friends that I've met there now that have become really close friends of mine, and a part of my life day in, day out. I've got people that I chat to in my seat whose name I don't know. I still don't know. I've chatted to them for years, but I enjoy seeing them. People such as Lily Barnes, who's no longer with us.
I met Lily. What a nice person.
Yeah, completely. And she sits sat near where I am, and just sort of people. It's all that type of people. It's not just the players, it's all the people that make it work, and particularly the last few years when everyone has done everything to get the club over the line and make sure it's okay. And as everyone heard in the series, I was nigh on hysterical, thinking it's the most difficult thing I've ever done, and just thinking, what have I done this for? But everybody that works so hard, it's all those people. And that's kind of, I'm so excited. I always keep saying I'm so excited about Bramley-Moore Dock. I'm so, like, that's exactly what the club needs.
Yeah. And
it doesn't, it's not sort of a disservice to say you're sad to leave Goodison. I describe it like it's your family home. So many memories there. You move into a new house that's got all the mod cons. It's a beautiful new home, you know, integrated dishwasher, all that kind of stuff, you know, and you're dead excited about that. You can be excited about the move and still just be sad about all the things. Yeah. And it sort of feel like you're leaving some people behind, really, that are not going to move to Bramley-Moore. So that's kind of what it means to me. And also just anything that's ever gone on in my life. Anyone who knows me is watching this will be laughing because I just kind of spill from disaster to disaster. But yeah, it's sort of all those times where I've still gone to Goodison, as everyone has. You've probably had a load of stuff going on at home. It might have been the most tricky time in your life. Yeah. You might be on a real downer and have lots of worries and concerns, but you go and it's always there for you. And I always say that it's always, your football club's always there for you, or it should be. And I think Everton are brilliant at that. And you just go and for 90 minutes, 2 hours, just, you feel like you're at home. So.
You know what? That is such you've made me hairs. I don't even have hairs really, but you've made the little one stands up. That's the perfect analogy. But and a personal story for me is, listening to the podcast now, bit of a hard time at the start of the year. I was off the show. My little boy was having a hard time, having a relationship breakup with his mother. And he was upset in school. And I took him to the Merseyside derby in April, and everything stopped. Yeah. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, to be able to bring him from, close the world outside.
It does, yeah.
And Goodison Park has been there for my 6-year-old. Like, it's been there for you, been there for me. Yeah. Are you ready to drive past and it's not there in a year's time? I can't even think that. I mean, obviously, you know, Dixie's staying and the Holy Trinity staying and the Black Sword. So there'll be parts of it. But yeah, the actual stadium won't. That's going to be so... I haven't even thought about that, actually. I haven't thought about that until you've just said, what's it going to be like going past? I never even thought, I don't know. I can't drive past it. If someone says to me there's a crane or a bulldozer there, I'll have to go the long way to work.
Well, I wondered that as well. I wondered, people are going to be there. I mean, that's a monumental moment in itself. I mean, I don't want to talk about that. It makes me feel... Let's
get back to Brighton, eh? Let's really get more depressed.
Oh, my goodness me. I know, but then again, Bramley, I've been lucky enough to go into Bramley-Moore, and wow, what a... stadium, and it still feels, despite the fact the capacity is huge. I went all the way to the top of the of the new home stand, which is the south, isn't it? I'm dreadful with geography, so it's the south stand, isn't it? Which is sort of like the big wall, the big wave, as it's being described. And that you still got a crack of it. You still feel like on top of the pitch, so it's. Dan Meese has done an incredible job in Langham Rock at putting it all together.
It looks amazing.
Feels special.
I drive past it purposely on the way to work. I can go to work a few ways, and I purposely drive Dock Road. Yeah,
I go and check on it. I'm sure, like everyone, every so often I've checked on it since it was flat. So I'll go and check on it again. And then when I was invited to go in, I was like a kid in a suite. They were all laughing at me.
Have you drove from the Vauxhall Way, Boundary Street?
Yes.
And it's like Independence Day, the spaceship. Yes. It just appears.
And I've gone the other side as well and walked the dog at Wallasey. I recommend you do it near Wallasey Town Hall. Yeah. Exactly. If you go behind the back and down onto
the Eggy Ferry.
Oh, wow. The view there, it's like it's coming out of the water. It looks amazing. And I just keep thinking of the Euros. Imagine that on the TV. It's all around the world.
2028, isn't it?
Yeah, because we've just had one on we. So 2028, imagine that. And for some reason, it just screams Coldplay to me. A Coldplay gig there with all the and
you'll have the gigs there as well. Yeah. You'll be working there yourself, actually. You're going to be working there, aren't you? Obviously, because
I don't know.
You will be. You're absolutely brilliant at your job. So
I don't know. I never take anything for granted, me. I just literally fly by the seat of my pants.
I think there'd be riots if Giulia Bould wasn't working for Everton Football Club. But I suppose in a selfish way, you're looking forward to possibly, let's say possibly, to keep you working there as well.
Everyone, I never ever assume. I don't know. I mean, I'm just excited to go and see. I mean, I said it was still sort of all dug up in the middle, so there was I know now there's the sand and all the things going into the pitch. I'm just excited to see it with everybody in it. That's genuine, whether I'm just in a seat watching or working or on air or whatever. Just imagine that, and that'll be incredible.
How strange is the feeling? Like me, where you've got Goodison and you're emotional, and then you're looking forward to Bramley-Moore
But that's
as well.
what I say. It's like that thing of, buying a really fancy house, and you're so excited because everything's going to be so much better in this new house. It's a new start and all that. But yeah, you're leaving your family home, you're locking it up, and all those things, all those memories you've got. But I think once it's almost like we've got the longest goodbye ever. Sometimes I think these things, but you can't because it's infrastructure, so everybody knew when it was going to end. But sometimes these things, I think, just rip the plaster off.
Yeah, of course.
But this is very slowly taking the plaster off, and every single little skin hair is coming off with it.
Yeah, it is a great analogy. You mentioned there that you'd done a little-known series that no one's ever heard of. It was called Everton, Nothing Will Be the Same.
Nothing has been the same, I can assure you.
I did say to you I didn't want to talk too much about it because I know you don't need to promote it, but you've spoke about it in depth with other great podcasts and media channels and stuff. But I've got you on. That was brilliant. Well done, and thank you as a fan for bringing that. Oh. Are you proud looking back at that?
Oh God, it's just, I get emotional again thinking about it now. It's just, thank you to everyone at BBC Studios, and thank you to Everton, because now I can look back on it and just think, wow, what a ride that was. And at the time I can't tell you how many times I cried in the middle of Finch Farm. It's quite a lot of times I was just in a dugout having a bit of a weep, thinking, oh goodness me. And sort of, what it was like that season. Every week it got worse, and there was another headline and something else happened, and you were just thinking, oh my, because obviously I was in there when the first PSR charge, we didn't really know what a PSR charge meant either, to be honest.
You were there for the chaos of Headlock Gate and Frank Lampard leaving, and that were players, and I never slate fans, but players were being chased from Goodison Park after the Southampton game and stuff.
Yeah, I was in.
You were there for all that?
Oh, I was, yeah. Changing manager. I was there when the week where there was no manager, so it was Paul Tate and Leighton Baines taking training, and I was in that. I wasn't taking part, evidently, but I was in the training session then. I was in with players watching the TV. I think it's in the series, we're watching the TV while they're talking about who the next Everton manager, I've got players saying to me, who is it? I'm like, well, if you don't know, I don't know. I'm in here with you. Just the most surreal experience. And then seeing how, and that's why I am a big fan of Sean Dyche. I've seen him operate day to day, and he's a much more talented manager than people give him credit for. Very intelligent man. Very proactive and very ahead of his game on a lot of things, which is why I think the players really do. You've heard Seamus Coleman say it's the first sort of time since David Moyes was there that he feels Everton is how it should be. Now that I don't think comes as any bigger compliment than that. And he was really good. I mean, Frank Lampard was brilliant. Got the whole point. Obviously, he invited me to a behind closed doors game while I was there, which was a really odd experience and one that I'll treasure, especially how Goodison's going. But Dyche really got the podcast, very open, but everyone in it was. So I'm just really grateful. It was an amazing experience. It went a lot bigger than I ever thought it would have done.
Honestly, my boss will not thank you for releasing all the episodes at once, because he got a day of nothing out of me, because I turned it on. And I said, right, hold life.
And we said nothing as well. So very few people knew where I was and what I was doing. I've got colleagues that didn't know. I've got friends that didn't really know what I was doing. They knew I was doing something, but didn't. It was literally my life. It was literally obviously there's a big team. We brought Mark Chapman in as well as the narrator, who I think is fantastic and gives it. He's very fond of Everton. He's got a lot of adoration for the club, and and I think that comes across the warmth, the way he narrates it as well, and a lot of that he put in himself and sort of came up with his own versions of the scripts, which was brilliant. Obviously I was the one in Finch Farm, which went in day one really excited, and then had about 8 nervous breakdowns in there. So we didn't say anything. We just decided, there was a lot of different meetings, how would we do this? And we just went, you know what, we're just going to drop it on Sounds. And it loaded at 6 a.m. that day. And I know because I didn't sleep all night. I was terrified. I thought, what was if people don't like it? What was if I haven't answered? And I knew I was the only one in there. And I knew everyone had said, imagine if there would have been a series in there.
Yeah.
And I kept going, imagine. Knowing full well I was the one in there, and I was hidden, and press conferences I'd be hidden around the corner so no one saw me, because I was allowed in places that normally the media can't go. So and I saw each episode load up, and I just didn't know what to expect, but luckily it went okay.
The word of mouth on that Like,
I just took a tweet
everywhere
out.
I went where there was an Evertonian, they would talk. Have you heard this?
Oh,
Have you heard? And I'm like, yeah, it's unbelievable. How did we not know about this? How was it kept under wraps? Because
we did well, didn't we?
At the time of specifically that Southampton game where the board were told not to attend, the team were booed off, the manager subsequently lost his job 10 days later. I remember saying, imagine if Netflix were in there and Giulia Bould was in there and we didn't know. To hear it all.
I know.
It was unbelievable.
I was recording at Goodison afterwards and nobody knew because I was sort of hidden away. Well, that's why I ended up on the bucket because I was hidden away because I couldn't be where all the other media was because everyone would have seen and nobody knew. So that's why I was shoved in the cupboard with the bucket. It's glamorous.
I've got one last question on that and then we're going to get back to Everton. And it's aimed at Giulia, the journalist, if you will, or the professional. Because you're an Evertonian and because what was going on, did you feel added pressure that you had to deliver it for Evertonians? It had to be right.
100%. I don't think any opportunity to make something like that, I would have snapped the hands off. And I'm so grateful that sort of the talks had happened about it without me.
Yeah.
And then my name got thrown in the mix by both sort of everybody involved. And I got a phone call from my boss at the time at Radio Merseyside who said, how do you fancy making a podcast series? I don't think he finished the question once it was there. So I was like, yes, please. So I was sort of removed, taken out of Radio Merseyside as well, quietly. And people probably thought I'd been sacked. I don't know.
Where's she gone?
Yeah, that's happened there. So I kind of just had my sports show and that was it. It meant everything. And I feel a little bit worried that is that the best thing I'm ever going to do? Potentially. I mean, if somebody said now, can you go into Man United or the experience would be amazing. I'd love to sort of do lots of different things. It wouldn't probably... maybe I wouldn't fit. I don't think it wouldn't mean as much because I'd still want to do really good. Everything I do, I set the bar very high. But I think this just meant so much because I felt everything. I felt every emotion going anyway because I was feeling it. And I also felt that, I don't want to make it sound really deep and like it, but I felt that responsibility that I knew I was in there and I had one chance to get everybody's genuine emotions and how they were genuinely feeling. And if you sat any of the people that are in it from Tarky to, Seamus is very honest all the way through it. And if you ask them now about those specific events, like the week where there was no manager and I sat down with Seamus and we had a really honest discussion about how he was feeling. I've seen him interviewed about that since. It's slightly different because the emotion's out of it now. You've moved on. Yeah. Right in that point when nobody knows who's coming in the door next, you get very honest answers. And I knew I had that one chance to do it. And that made me really nervous. And then I cannot tell you, I don't think I've ever been as terrified the day it came out because I thought if everyone says she's asked the wrong thing, she hasn't got the answers, what are you going to do?
Well, that's why I asked about the pressure because in the live moments when you're recording it, you know what the fans are asking, what the fans are wanting. Then you're delivering it, but it's not being delivered until a future date. And that's
hard because it wasn't going well. And it's hard. And, I sometimes I'm not a very good journalist. I feel bad having to ask it, but I hope I do it in a polite way that I'd never be rude, but sometimes those questions have to be asked and it's tricky. But I felt it and I knew, and I think there was protests from the February, wasn't there? I think there was a protest at Finch Farm, and
that was on deadline day, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean we had all that going on. I mean you couldn't have packed more into it, and sort of these things are plotted. I won't go into details because it's a bit boring. A rough story arc. So. Yes. We had a rough story. I mean, you never know with football because you don't know what's going to happen. But we had a rough story arc of, how Frank Lampard was rebuilding the club. And essentially, we ended up making a series, which I don't think has ever been done in that capacity, where we didn't know how it was going to end. And then it got to the last day, the final game of the season, the second half of the final game of the season. I can't tell you my emotions because I had that thinking, I could have blown my career up here. Making this Plus, oh my God, we're going to get relegated going on. And the guy I sit with had no idea I had all the recording kit in my bag and I just sort of disappeared. And But thank you to everyone. It's always a lovely opportunity to talk about it and just say thank you to everybody. We tagged a couple of bonus on.
I seen you and you fibbed to me. If you remember at Finch Farm, I was doing some work with the women. And I seen you in reception. I said, "What are you doing?" You went, "I'm interviewing." I did.
It was a bonus episode. It was a bonus episode. I think I just gave you some nonsensical thing. Yeah, I'm just interviewing Brian Sorensen.
That's weird.
I was going to see the gaffer, I think, wasn't I, that day? I was going in his office. Sorry for
I texted you
lying.
next week, didn't I? And said, you lied
I'd
to
be
me.
great in the CIA.
Yes, you absolutely would. I would vouch for it. But in relation to that show, thank you. It was brilliant.
Oh, it's been the best thing I've ever done. And just thank you to everybody who has listened. I know some people have listened 2, 3, 4 times. Thank you.
We have some social media questions.
Oh gosh.
I'm going to let you answer them all.
Oh no.
I've picked not all of
They're
them,
not mean, are they?
I'm not going to answer any. We have a listener called Manny, and every time we have a guest on, he asks the same questions.
Okay,
the guests.
that's fine, Manny. If they're good questions, stick with them.
We get very personal with our guests, or we ask the most personal questions that we can, and he wants to know, red or brown on a sausage on toast?
Oh, this is a great question, and I'm a bit controversial here because I don't do either.
Wow.
But I do like, and this is very controversial, and I know people are going to say, no, I have a Nando's peri-peri sauce. Give it a bit of kick.
Wow, you've just opened up a galaxy.
Try it. You'll like it. You'll thank me later.
Comments.
Gives a bit of kick.
Comments below.
I don't like
Put
red
that
sauce.
on the...
Yeah, so I don't have red sauce. I just think it's horrible. Brown sauce, not keen on. But a bit of Nando's peri-peri.
Wow. That's took me somewhere. I need to... Yeah.
Try it, honestly. Try it. Let me know what you think.
I'm going to eat that in a dark room, I think, just in case.
Yeah.
Back to some more. Lee Gray, favourite Goodison memory?
Hi, Lee. Oh, my God. I will give a disclaimer here. My long-term memory is absolutely shockingly bad. So sometimes people will say something, they'll go, I don't think I was there. And then next day I'll go, oh, yeah, I was. My favourite Goodison memory, I'm going to link it back to the series just because it was such a crazy thing that became my life, was that last game against Bournemouth. Yeah. For lots and lots of different reasons. Did the fan zone, so many lovely people there that day, just sort of getting there really early, wanting to be part of it. Obviously the game itself, that noise when Doucouré scored, I've said it before, I don't think I've ever, it was like an animal noise that came out of everybody. And then also just sort of, because I was making the series, going in, the bucket now has become part of who I am. And just sort of being with everybody who had been in the club, treated as, I mean, I had a staff induction. That's how much I was treated like one of the club. So to sort of be with, like the physios, the nutritionists and stuff,
yeah.
In that moment where everyone was just so relieved. And it wasn't a party. It wasn't like, yay, everyone's celebrating this, but just that relief of people that I got really close with for a long, long time, a big, chunk of a year that I was in there, just to be in that moment was really special.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Judge does the podcast with me. I swear I've never heard the most perfect analogy of that Bournemouth game. And he says, have you ever been in a situation, either personally or as a business owner, where you're waiting on money to land and it's the relief? And you don't want to celebrate it because you're not in a good position. No. But it's that relief of like, oh my God, we can breathe. And it felt like that Bournemouth game.
I remember walking the dog the next morning feeling about 10 tons lighter.
Yes. I could sleep after that. It was great. And
we were all knackered.
AFC picks on Instagram. Would you cash in on Dominic Calvert-Lewin? He expands. Yeah. Everton Picks' thoughts are he doesn't think Dominic Calvert-Lewin wants to stay.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't spoken to Dominic about it. I got the vibe at the weekend that he's had a lot go on, hasn't he? He's had a lot of bad luck. I think he's got a good relationship with Sean Dyche, so I don't think think it's a situation that he doesn't like the manager or anything. I just wondered sometimes in life, do we all need a bit of a fresh start to kickstart his career? He was in and around the England side. He was being tipped to be, once Harry Kane gets sort of to the end of his legs, he'd be sort of the main striker. There was all that. I just wonder if somebody came in with a very big offer and he wanted to go. But for me, if that's going to happen, needs to happen in the next 48 hours. So there is plenty of time. I don't want it on the last day. No. And I don't think Kevin Thelwell operates in that way. I know he says in the series, actually, to Mark Chapman in one of the bonus ones, that a big thing he learned very quickly was other clubs will mess Everton about if they can. So it's sort of, you've got 48 hours to come up with this amount. If it's not, they're not for sale.
Yeah.
So I could also see a scenario where DCL continues, but I think, if it needs to be done, it needs to be done.
Yeah.
This week, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, that makes sense. Pete on Twitter, he's asking you for some inside intel here. I don't know if you've got it. Any news on the takeover, specifically the John Textor exclusivity?
Yeah, it's my understanding it's not quite an exclusivity agreement because it can't be, because he's still got the shares in Palace. So actually right now he's not in any position to buy Everton. No. So if you think about it like that, because the rules state he can't. Yeah. I know he is trying to sell them. Yeah. He's not going to give them away, is he? Yeah, I mean, look, there's been a lot of false dawns, hasn't there? Sort of through many different things. There's still a lot of interested parties. Let's face it, it's an iconic club going to an absolutely cracking stadium that's going to look amazing and full. There is a season ticket waiting list. It's got a brilliant history and the most loyal fan base you could ever want in your life. That, of course, people are interested. I do know there's another a lot of American groups interested. I do know of another one that's been holding.
Do you think it'll be resolved shortly, or maybe not shortly, but do you think this season we'll get a resolution on it? Because I don't think we can continue with an owner who doesn't want to have.
No, and I think you've got to remember, he's not at games. He's not hands-on anymore, is he? I mean, he wasn't massively hands-on anyway, but it's been an interim board for well over a year and all that kind of stuff. So he does need resolving. I think the Friedkin Group, I appreciated how swift that was. Yeah. So that was great, because obviously the previous situation went on far too long, and that's not good for anyone. I think if John Textor, if you find it, I'll probably walk out of here and we'll see a breaking news alert that he sold his shares in Crystal Palace. I can imagine it moving pretty swiftly then at that point. I don't think anyone's going to mess about. And I hope the owner now doesn't as well. If somebody did, and there's certainly no sort of indication that John Textor would then delay it any longer, but I hope the owner would sort of set really significant timeframes on this sort of, you've got 3 weeks to get to this point. If you're going to do it, we then need the transaction, all that kind of stuff happening. Yeah, it needs resolving. Hopefully. It's not going to be in time for the transfer window, and I don't think it would make a fat lot of difference, to be honest, given the PSR rules, which I hope no one's going to ask me about PSR.
No, well, we don't. We try not to talk with me and Gary only when we have to. We try and keep it to football. I don't know all of a sudden when I had to start becoming an accountant to support my football club.
I've learned
explaining
a lot
to my
more.
little boy why we're getting points taken off us.
I only got a C in GCSE maths as well, so I was quite proud that I started to follow PSR. And then half the BBC were asking me to do interviews on it as if I'm some kind of expert. I think my maths teachers probably sat somewhere laughing, going, "What?"
Well, the last question I have got for you is from Chris on Twitter. Back onto the football pitch. Chris feels that Nathan Patterson, when fit, deserves not only an extended run, but the entire season at right back, to see if he's got it. Is that something you maybe
there's
agree
a lot,
with?
Isn't there, Chris, that would agree with you on that. I don't see why not. I think Seamus is well understands when he signed that last one. He wasn't. I don't think he expects to play every game. I don't think Ashley Young certainly expects to play every game. It's been a problem though that he's been injured, and it's taken a while, hasn't it? I know there's been a lot made about him and Dyche. Do they get on? I don't see any evidence of any sort of...
Well, Dyche has played him at times. It's not as if he's always in the stands.
He's had issues with his fitness. That's been the problem. Yeah. I think sometimes Nathan Patterson has kind of maybe had people backing him a bit more because he's not played. You know that thing of where if someone's not playing, they're automatically, well, he'd do great. So I think we're still to see where Nathan Patterson is really. But yeah, an extended run in the side would show you that. I think the problem you've got is when he has played, he maybe hasn't lived up to the standards that he should be hitting.
I agree.
And that's why when Seamus is fit, he's still, for me, the best right back in the squad by quite a bit.
Yeah.
His game's slightly different, and Seamus has said himself he's slightly different. He doesn't bomb forward. Mind you, I've seen him bomb before. He says that. I don't bomb forward as much. I have seen you doing that. Yeah, and I think that's it. I think some of it, though, Nathan has to take on himself now, and he's got to, raise the bar himself.
He's 24 now, I think. Yeah. If you go and have a career at Everton, and you're 3 years in, and you're 24, it's got to be now, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I appreciate, he's had some niggles and things like that, but yeah, if he's going to be the first choice right back, he's going to have to go up a gear, I think, now. Yeah. And there's no indication that he won't. Yeah. He's just been very unlucky with, injury.
Let's hope that happens. That's the last question from social media.
They were okay.
However, I have seen you in the fan zone, and I've seen you ask fans to join in a little game called Higher or Lower.
Yes.
I've witnessed
That's our fan zone quiz.
I've witnessed grown men lose to 5-year-old children. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test your knowledge on your own game. I've got 3 questions.
I don't have the crowd to help me here as well. I usually ask the questions. I'm better asking questions even on this.
I've made these questions.
Do I win a stadium tour for 2 people?
Well, maybe. I've made these questions a little bit, I don't expect you to know the actual answer. It's going to be a guess either way. So I'm not.
Well, I've got 50-50. As I always say, that's how I sell the quiz. 50-50 chance of being right. I'm back in the fan zone now.
I've themed them on goal scorers.
Okay, let's go for it.
In Yakubu's debut season, which is 2007-2008, in the Premier League, he scored 15 goals for Everton. In Romelu Lukaku's debut season, 13-14, was his amount higher or lower than Yakubu's 15 Premier League goals?
Yakubu, who was back at the weekend at half time.
He was, yeah.
I'm going to say Big Rom was higher than 15.
Big Rom was 16.
Yes.
Well done.
I am so competitive, by the way. I probably should have warned you that.
One down, 2 to go. Similar theme in 04-05. Tim Cahill was Everton's top goal scorer with 12 goals in all comps. Tim Cahill was then Everton's top scorer in 08-09 again, but was the amount in 08-09 higher or lower than 04-05? And the 04-05 number was 12.
Oh my goodness, man. I'm taking this so seriously. I'm going to say, did he have a couple of injuries that season? Might be thinking of the wrong season. I'm going to say lower.
Nailed it. Lower with 9. And he did have injuries that season. You well. And the last one, let's see if you can take home the stadium tour for 2 people. Wayne Rooney was Everton's top scorer in all competitions in 2003-2004 with 9. Then in 17-18, when he returned, he was top scorer again. But was his number higher or lower than 9?
Goodness me. That is tricky. I bet there's not much in it.
Nope.
Is there not much in it? I didn't think there was. Was it higher than 9? I'm trying to think of the goals. I'm going to say lower.
It was almost a clean sweep.
Oh,
he was higher. He was the penalty king, and it was also the season he scored past the halfway line.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Big Sam was in.
He got a hat-trick that game. That inflated.
West Ham?
West Ham 4-0, yeah. You got 2 out of 3, which is credible.
I could have still won. You see, now you should be. I should have brought some questions and you play against me.
Next time. Or if you see me in the fan zone, you can get my little boy up and
absolutely, yeah.
You
never go home empty-handed. I'll shut up.
It's been great to have you on. Thank you so much. I know I've peppered you. I've seen you at the women's games. I've seen you at Finch Farm, and we've spoke on the phone. And thank you so much for coming on. You're brilliant at what you do in the fan zone, and you're also on Radio Merseyside doing the breakfast show now, I think.
Yeah, Total Sport at breakfast. So yeah, I'm on from 7. Kev starts the show at 6. We've got loads of things coming up for you as well, and I've got a few things coming up that Blues might be interested in.
Wow.
I can't say any more right now.
So we're going to have to tune into Radio Merseyside.
Tune in, because very soon I've got something you're going to be interested in.
Oh, what a cliffhanger to end Across the Park podcast. But Giulia, thank you so much again for coming on.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks so much for joining me again. This is episode 1 and we are back. It's going to get more emotional. Hopefully it's going to get a little bit better as well, because Saturday was a washout, but we're going to be here right up until the end of the season with instant match reactions, weekly shows, away match previews, and hopefully some special guests along the way as well. That little button down there that says like, if you can click that for me, it'd be great. There's one next to saying subscribe, click that one. And there's one saying share. Put this in all your Everton WhatsApp groups. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Tottenham away on Saturday. We're back on Friday to speak to Dorset, Spare, and preview that. Until then, thank you for watching, and up the Toffees.